Liv, so good to be back for our Real Talk sesh. How are you?
I'm brilliant, can I say? Because
Oh,
I'm just back from a little 3-day vacay with my hubby.
so
Uh,
jealous.
I booked it, do you know, I booked it ages ago. We
Mm.
actually went back to our honeymoon destination, Injita
Oh,
Spa, for anyone looking for a really beautiful place to go on the Western
mm,
Australian coast in
yeah.
Yellingup. Amazing.
Mm.
So I feel great.
Oh,
I had
so
three
good.
three full nights of sleep. It was great.
Oh, so talk me through this because this is quite rare for parents. You know, we all know to take that time and do something for as a couple or even for yourself is really difficult. And that's what this topic is today. It's like, are we kidding ourselves with self-care goals and actually having a life outside of the manic
Yeah,
ness of parenting? So talk us through this. So you decided what, 6 months ago you were going to book a
yeah.
holiday? Like,
I
give me
literally
inspo.
did it on a whim.
Yeah.
Bustleton Airport has opened up. Melbourne to Bustleton, direct Jetstar flight. And I thought, why the bloody hell not? Really great
Yeah.
fares. I did not consult anyone about it. I just booked it and said, I'll work the rest out later. So I
Oh,
had 6 months to talk to
yeah.
the grandparents around,
Yes.
Mark and I really want to do it. Only because
Yeah.
I knew even 6 months ago, in fact, I knew 2 years ago or 4 years ago that Mark and I need this time. Probably since the
Yes.
kids have been around, we've we've had 2 nights away once in that
Mm.
4 year period. But
Yeah.
otherwise, this is probably the first time that we had more than 2 nights, 3 nights away. And it was just bliss. I did it
Yeah.
because our relationship needed it. And
Yeah.
we needed time away from the kids. And coming out of that Christmas period, I think I said in the last episode that we did together that, yeah, came into January, February just thinking I'm more tired starting off a new year and I've got some pretty ambitious goals this year. How
Mm.
am I going to do it if I'm feeling this broken? So
Yeah.
it just worked out perfectly that,
Oh.
yeah, we had the most perfect 3 days of beach and
Mm.
silence. I've actually
Oh.
worked out that's what I'm triggered by. Just
Yes.
the noise, like so much noise. I just need silence. I just need no one talking to
Yes.
me.
Yes. It's overstimulation just of every sense, right? When you're with your children, it's like there's so much, it's the TV or it's the kids screaming or it's someone pushing each other. Yeah. It's just the rustling. It's the feet pattering along the floor. Like there's so much going on that, I
Yeah.
mean, did you feel lazy? Like, being on a plane and being like, I
No.
just have to look after myself.
How good is it being on a plane without kids?
I'm the
And I was
best.
like doing these longing looks at all of these other mothers who had their
Yeah.
children or when their babies were crying. And I was like half, smiling, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then I go back to my book and
Oh.
put my music up and thought, this is just beautiful.
Oh my gosh, can we contrast that? I didn't actually ask you. Contrast that to your plane trip to Port Douglas with the children over the summer. So what did that look like for you, Liv?
Okay, Port Douglas. I will talk about coming home from Port Douglas.
Okay.
Going there was okay. I mean, it was the usual chaos, kids crawling over you. I just feel terrible leaving the airplanes, popcorn crumbs, and like I'm a neat freak. I hate
Yeah.
leaving somewhere messy. I just feel
Yeah.
like it's so irresponsible.
Okay.
Anyway, coming home,
Mm.
Harry. I'd give him a few he knew that I had lollipops, right, for his ears.
Yeah.
I had made the mistake of buying a bag and not hiding the bag.
Ah.
So he knew there was a bag of Chupa Chups. So probably an hour and a half into the flight, he'd had maybe 10 Chupa Chups. So he was sugar loaded. And because he was having all these lollipops, he was drooling on his t-shirt. So I was like, honey, your t-shirt's wet and sticky and gross. I need to change your t-shirt. So I start changing it. And he went, no, sister girlfriend, you are not changing my t-shirt today. And just screams and yells and starts hitting me. And fast forward 10 minutes later, he has not let up. At this point, there's Chupa Chups coming to me from other parents who didn't know that I'd already given him 10, like thinking it was his ears. But no, he was just distressed that I was giving him the new dinosaur t-shirt rather than the stripy t-shirt that he was wearing. There was nothing I could do. I have never been just so anxious. And when that starts to happen, I'm yelling at Mark, like, do something, like get a book or find something chocolate or like, I don't know. And Mum and Dad were actually behind us too, and like throwing things over. And at one point, I held Harry up, and Dad's like, it was like an opera singer, just like projecting down the whole length of the plane. And Dad's like, put him down. Oh, it was so. It was. I kid you not. It was 10. I mean, it feels like half an hour in my brain. I think it was like a good 10 to 15 minutes. And anyone who's met my youngest child knows how loud he is. He's louder than his mother, which is saying something. And people were coming up to me at the baggage carousel like, oh, yeah, you did well. Like, and I was like, you don't mean that. Human lie detector right now. You are bullshitting me.
So how did he stop? Did he just eventually
just
stop? Right?
Just eventually stop. Like, you know what they're like? That's just him.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
A lot of it, was it attention? Like, he was at like 1, sugar loaded, 2, agitated, 3, like, I can't take those kids anywhere longer than 3 hours. Queensland is it for us.
Yeah.
He was just, and because he was on the cusp of 2, I was making the most of not having to pay for him. So he was on our lap, and this is literally 2 days before he turned 2. So he probably needed a seat. I probably shouldn't have been such a tight ass and just paid for it. But I didn't want to because I didn't have to.
Yeah.
So,
100%. Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why it made this flight just glorious. Absolutely glorious. So,
delightful. Tell me, like, okay, so what was the best part, do you think, as in of being childless during this day?
Do you know what?
You mentioned noise, but
I didn't think I was going to miss them. Like, I was, and I'm being completely honest about how burnt out I have felt this last kind of 6 weeks, that I wasn't enjoying them. Like, they weren't enjoying me because I'm like, they needed a break from me as much as I needed a break from them. Like, we just weren't working together. Yeah. And I think going away, I was like, I'm not going to miss them one bit. You know, Mark and I have been talking about going to Europe next year without them. Like, I actually miss them like mad. And when I came back yesterday and saw them, I literally had tears in my eyes because I just needed to feel that again. Yes. Because there was just so much shit going on. Yes. That, I really, really, really did miss them. And I said to Mum and Dad, good news. Unlikely Mark and I are going to go away for 2 weeks next year without the kids. So you're off the hook.
So you think
what a nice thing. So, like, that's the best thing that I know. The best thing was Mark and I needed that. And there were moments of just going, shit, I remember what our life was like before kids. Like, I remember why I love you. I remember why I married you now. Yes. Like, I haven't felt, at one point we were having lunch, maybe it was the 3 rosés I had. I don't know. But I looked at him and I was like, I actually haven't felt that feeling of just looking at you and going, I love you. I haven't felt like that for so long because I haven't been looking for those moments. I had tears in my eyes and he's like, oh, that's so nice to hear. And I'm like, oh, God, give me another rosé. It won't last long. I'll be back yelling at you in 2 minutes' time.
Just soak up this moment for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So it was just we just needed that. And, you know, we talk about this being self-care. Like, for me, that's what self-care had to look like for me, because just time away. And I'm so grateful for my parents and Mark's parents who did a job share of the 3 days, 3 nights that we're away to make it happen. I know not everyone has that luxury, so I count myself, seriously lucky and thankful to have been able to do that, because we're better for it now.
It's such a, I mean, I know that even if we have one night away, let's call it, it's just such a circuit breaker. And I so hear you. I am so looking forward to the kids the next day and like seeing their little faces and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go back in now. Like I just needed to tap out for like 30 seconds. And we actually booked Queensland for a bit later on this year, just the 2 of us. There's a 40th birthday of a friend of ours. And initially I was like, oh, I'm not sure. Oh, bring the kids. And then I was like, like, actually, and again, very fortunate that we do have grandparents to support for those 2 nights. But I'm so, look, it's like 8 months away, and I'm so looking forward to that too, because outside of having a little date night here and there, and even those are few and far between, you know, just having a good amount of time away, I think is, for at least for me and for you and our personalities, and for a lot of people, it's kind of critical. If you can do it, why not? You know,
it's funny as Harry, I'd been back literally 2 hours and I was trying to get him to bed and he's yelling at me and pulling my hair. And I was like, you're lucky, buddy, that mummy just feels so zen and happy right now that I can take this. And I'm just going to put you in your cot and I'm going to walk away.
Like literally.
I'm ready for battle again. Because that's what this parenting thing is, like battle so many days. That you need to be as fit and prepared and mentally, like the mental fitness to just persevere and show patience, because it's, the patience that when that wanes, that's when shit hits the fan as well.
100%. I mean, look, they say self-care. It is a bit of a buzzword, but looking after yourself as a parent, it's one of the most important things you can do for your children. And there's actually a quote that I pulled up by Audre Lorde, and it says, caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. And I'm like, drop the freaking mic. Here, right? Like, we're just trying to, you know, do the best we can on the daily, as you always say, Liv, you know, and just, it's just the circuit breaker. I don't know. Have you thought about this year and maybe how you'll do things a little more differently on that self-care front, and like how you'll look after yourself?
It's funny, I spoke about, again in our last episode, for anyone who listened, I joked about setting New Year's resolutions, but at the end of every calendar year, I do tend to just sit and reflect and think about the year that was and what worked and what didn't. And one of the things that didn't work for me was definitely the self-care, or maybe more broadly, work-personal balance. And shout out Mum again. Mum's getting plenty of shout outs this season already. I don't know.
We love you.
What happens when you spend a few weeks on holiday with her.
Yeah.
But Mum was silently just challenging me on priorities, and she'd always say things like, your boys have to be your number one priority. And I'd be like, of course, Mum, my boys are number one. And I'd get agitated and annoyed that she felt that she needed to say that. But in my reflection and my plan for 2023, it says, the boys are my number one priority, and perhaps not selling myself to my job as much as I did last year, to really just have that as kind of my mantra for the year. So that's a bit of the self-care bit too, of not just completely stressing myself out with work and calling it when I get to, being a bit unbalanced.
Yeah.
Because when it's unbalanced, work, as much as I hate to admit it, and real talk is for honesty, there are absolutely days where the boys are second.
Yeah.
And I hate that. And that really cuts the mum guilt, to the core, right? But that's also, maybe I'm accepting of it because I know that's just who I am as a person too. Like, I love my job. So the New Year's resolution of running has not 2 days. I haven't picked it up.
Come on, Liv, we've got this.
And someone said to me the other day, they're like, maybe you need to pay for like F45 or a PT. Because if you pay for it, you're more likely to do it, because you've all sat through 5 seasons of me now talking about my running. But I'm also kind of like, can I just stop putting so much pressure on myself to go for a run or do this? Like, I'm probably overall the fittest that I've ever been, because I'm running after 2 bloody kids the whole time. Like, I don't need to go for a 5K run because I'm running 5K after these bloody kids every day. So I think that's the other self-care thing. It's not about doing, my goal was 20 park runs, right? Can I just start with 5? Let's just get 5 done. Like, that's, I'm always that person. I go for the biggest, most audacious goal that I can think of. I'm going to try and break it into much smaller chunks. And see how I go.
I think it's so true. Like that one thing you said around being really mindful of your state, and when you are feeling a bit unbalanced and yuck, not continuing to push. And, and I do that a lot. I reflected on that. That was a big thing for me last year. I would, I'd be feeling yuck, and let's say I had to pick up the kids in an hour's time from whatever. And like just something, I felt rattled by a work call or something. And so what do? I sit at my computer. I'm like, oh, I've only got an hour. I've got to smash this out. And then I'm like angrily, and, things will pop up, emails, and I'm like angry to people, and I'm just like hating life. And then I don't want to exercise after, or do the things I want to do because now I feel really off. So what I've actually tried to put in place this year is firstly being mindful of like, okay, now is not the time to be jumping straight back into whatever it was I was doing. Now's the time to actually just circuit break this and just actually take the time to go have a tea or whatever it looks like.
Stare at a tree,
outside,
moving
exactly. Or move your body or whatever helps you, and then come back to it later. And that was such a big thing, because guess what? Your shit mood, then it continues on. So when the kids do something, they just poke, and so that bad mood just gets amplified. And I don't want to be in that state. Like,
Can you snap out of it? Like, because often I find like if I'm really agitated, like now I'm learning I have to like wave the flag to Mark. Like, I'm not my best right now.
Yes.
I really need you to help with dinner, or I need you to go and bath the kid. Like, that's the other 2023 goal. Communicate more. I'm not okay. I'm not coping, or I've had a really fucking shit day.
Yes.
Help me, please.
I did that the other day, actually. I actually sent a text to Jules, and it was like 5:00, and I just said to him, I've just had the worst day. I need you home. The kids are just ready. I need you home ASAP. And kudos to him. He did come back a little bit early, and I just went, great. Drop the mic. I'm going upstairs for 5 minutes. And again, I understand that's a privileged situation, and not everyone has a partner or someone to tap in like that. But you're right. If you do have a partner, communicating that, because the resentment would then carry on. If I didn't say anything, the partner gets home, you're angry at them.
Isn't
like,
that a great learning? Like, as soon as he walks in the door, like, where the hell have you been? Like, the kids are feral. Like, it's so true. Whereas he'd given him the heads up before he gets home, like, and he would know getting a text like that. Okay, better get home promptly. Maybe with a bottle of wine or some whiskey in hand. Like,
and that's what we ended up.
We're learning, late. Look at us. Oh my God.
100%. My other thing, talking about not putting too much pressure on yourself for this year as a self-care goal. So we had this goal that we weren't going to drink Monday to Thursday. It was like that. Like, we weren't even going to have a drop of wine or anything. But that day that I texted him, I just thought, okay, Jules is on his way home now. I've told him I'm in a bad mood. The worst thing I could do, I need to do something that's going to make me happy kind of thing. So he walks through the front door, he takes the kids, I go upstairs for a bit, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a glass of wine. You know what? I know it's a Wednesday, but I will, because you know what? That's going to shift my mood too. And so we just had a glass of wine with dinner, and that was happy day. But it's amazing because I didn't feel like I had to stick within all these boundaries that I'd set for myself, because sometimes you just can't fulfill the boundaries. And if it's a glass of wine, or if it's a walk outside, or if it's just whatever circuit breaker you feel you need, I think it's so important to just indulge yourself in it, because we're just surviving here, or at least I feel like I am,
Self-preservation, like, as that quote said, that's what it's all about. Like, whatever you've got to do, and we know ourselves better, like whether that's making sure you get a good night's sleep, or, if you've had a baby and the baby's waking you up, like finding something that will allow you to have a better night's sleep, or napping during the day, or whatever it might be. You've just got to do what you can to, stay well.
100%. Do you feel the guilt? So what is something that you would do for yourself, do you think? I mean, let's call it if you get your nails done, or, something, or get your hair done and you're out of the house for 3 hours or whatever it is. Do you feel the guilt for doing self-care activities?
Let me think about that. Do you know what? I don't usually. It's when I've perhaps done a few things for me, like I've gone out for dinner with you on the Thursday night, and then maybe on Saturday morning I've got a breakfast. Yep. If I've done a few things consecutively, that's when the guilt sets in, because as I've shared on the pod previously, Mark's not as social as what I am. So my guilt is more around, oh shit, I've left Mark with the kids again. It's not about the kids. I know the kids are fine. Like they want dad anyway. It's more about am I not investing as much time at home that I am out socially having a wine with my girlfriends or staying late back at work? Like that typically is where the guilt comes in. I'm not great at doing the self-care, going for runs, as we all know, so that's not an issue for me.
Yeah.
But it's more I'm just trying to make sure that the swings and roundabouts are working in both of our favours, and I'm offering things that we can do as a couple together away from the kids, which I've expertly done in the last 3 days. But I'm just, I'm trying to get rid of all that bloody guilt because it just just really dragged me down last year. Just spoken about it lots of times, running late from work and just doing the best we can. So what about you? Does it feel that way about you?
So I think you're right. It's about that balance, and it's certainly similarly. I don't think my kids care, what I'm up to. It's more the Jules is sort of having to tag team with the children, and myself. So I think the same thing for me. What I'm trying to do this year is kind of find that balance. So, for example, this is the thing, and it's a little bit different to your situation. Jules travels for work, right? So I'm left with the children. Let's call it for 2 days or whatever it is, then I will because I was getting really resentful by the fact that, well, hold on, I know you're away from work, but like this is extra on me and I've got a job too and it's a lot and blah. So I will then pop something in the diary that's just for me, and I've balanced that out, so I will have get my nails done on the Saturday morning or something. And so I think or if he goes for a dinner, then I've booked a dinner or and I think or similarly, if I've been going out a fair bit, I'll say, why don't you try and do X, Y, Z, or you wanted to even just go to the gym on a Saturday, let me look after the kids. It doesn't have to be social stuff, but just to allow him the opportunity to do something on his own or with whoever he wants, just have his own time if I've also had a fair bit. So I'm a lot more mindful of that because that resentment was really big for us, particularly as we were trying to navigate parenting with Noah, our first. And I just felt like everything was off balance, and I felt like I was doing more, and then he was resentful because he's like, dude, I've got a job and I've got things I've got to do as well. And I think we've found the balance a little bit more, but the point scoring, who's doing what more and blah, I think it sneaks up for everyone. Like, from all the conversations I've had in 70 odd episodes, everyone's like, the biggest piece of resentment is that point scoring. Who's doing more if you are in a partnership?
Yeah. So what are you going to do differently to look after yourself this year?
Yeah. So I think for me, I'm not a big meditator or yogi or something, but exercise is sort of my meditation. So I'd like to really get structured. I have been in a pretty good routine at the moment when I can, to just move my body. It might even just be a walk, listening to a podcast, but just trying to get into a routine. I know if I don't do that, a couple of times a week, I'm just like a feral child. So I know that works for me. Another thing is just, I know little things like reading my book before I go to bed, even if it's for 15 minutes. And that doesn't sound like such a massive goal, but for me, it is a bit of a goal because we know what it's like, where it's so easy to just fall into your phone when you get in bed and then, turn it off and fall asleep. And I was feeling like really kind of ratty by doing that. And often, I don't know if you're the same, but if I'm sitting on Insta before I go to bed, I mean, my thing is and I'm feeling bad about the day, I'll then want to make myself feel worse. So I'll go and I'll have a look at so-and-so podcast who's just killing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as them, and I'm not, I'm like, or so-and-so who's just fabulous in general, and I'm like, oh, I suck, and then I'll fall into a heap, and that's what I do. It's I like to torture myself if I've had a really, really bad day. So what I've become mindful of that, and I've gone, okay, Insta for 5 minutes, cool, turn it off and read your book and get grounded and focus on you again. But me with this, look, jealousy and envy motivates me and it makes me want to be better, but it's also got a dark side to it. And I've really got to be mindful of that dark side not dragging me right down. I don't know, do you do that too, ever? Are you jealous?
I'm not jealous, but I'm competitive, if that makes sense. So I'm competitive with myself, and I certainly do, observe others and want to think that I am seen in a similar light or the best that I can possibly be, or achieving the goals that, as I've described, are usually fairly audacious and unachievable. So the thing that I am doing this year is just being a bit kinder. my foot, doesn't have to be, foot to the floor the whole time this year. So I'm going to just start with those 5 park runs rather than 20 park runs. I've got some professional goals too that hopefully will come to pass. And I don't know, just be a bit kinder perhaps, rather than thinking because I'm already like, I'm not going to achieve 20 park runs now, so I failed. And well, I was never going to achieve it anyway. So what's that old goal setting? SMART goals. Good old HR practitioner that I am. I haven't used those for a while. My goals are going to be SMART.
Not what does SMART stand for, Liv? I'm putting you on the spot.
Jesus. Okay. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. I think that's
it. Works for me. Well done, girl.
Okay, so 5 park runs in 10 months. That's very smart.
I love that. Have you ever been a vision board kind of person?
No, but I reckon that's kind of like, if you look at my little list, I would say it's a vision board just without pictures. Like, it's personal, there's professional, there's, you and I have always loved quotes, things that just really resonate with us. Like, if I hear something, I will just manifest it and focus on that, and it'll keep coming back to me almost like a theme. Like the podcast from Hamish Blake that I keep talking about. That when you hear something like that, it just, you go, okay, something's out of kilter. That's why it's replaying for me. So I don't know. I'm just going to make more time for Mark, because it's been obvious that I've made no time for him in the last 4 years, because let's face it, haven't had any time for him. And just have a bit of fun.
No, I love that. Well, hopefully we have inspired some of our listeners who have been listening in to just kind of recalibrate and have a look at what didn't work last year for you, and what are the things that you could just do to make your life that little bit better, more relaxed, more simple this year. I think we're all about it. We've got enough on our plates as it is, so let's not be too hard on ourselves. Any final words, Liv, my love?
Maybe we should start a book club.
That was so random.
I was like, I read this like a book. Maybe we could do another podcast on books that we've read.
Oh, that's a good idea. I've read a few too.
I've read a few books over the summer break that particularly relate to kind of women in their late 30s, kind of really just kind of like, remember when we were young and we used to love a boy at the local boys' school that, so much, or a hobby that we just loved with everything. Yeah. Once you get to like your late 30s, 40s, it's really hard to love something other than your kids. Like, we lose them. Yes. If anyone's read the book that you think that I'm talking about, I think it's called This Is Not a Book About Benedict Cumberbatch. Anyone might know him, acting by Tabitha Carven. Really interesting read. Anyway, we'll save that for book club.
Yeah, right. Okay. I like the idea. It's something that we can consider. Sounds good, love. All right. Well, I'll catch you next time. See you, everyone.